Did you have to, when you got in this thing way back? I mean, you got in this in the early '90s, right? You were one of the youngest dudes to do it. Have you had to evolve your style? Do you wake up? First off, I mean, it's got to be hard because I hate my voice. Somebody with a voice like yours, I wonder, do you hate your voice, Joe? Because if you hate your voice, there's no hope for any of us.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't
right,
like
that's
listening.
Fair.
I don't like listening to myself, and that's the hardest thing, because if you're going to get good at this, you have to listen to your stuff. Now, I think you have to have I think you have to have some lag time. If I do a Super Bowl, and the next day I go racing home and I just sit down and watch it, it's an unfair watch, because I know what I said. I remember what I said. And I also remember what I wanted to say but didn't.
Right.
The choices I made, whatever it might be. If I go back, you know, like you said, what year was the Mitchell call? I have no idea.
Yeah,
if I go
Mitchell.
back, and it's been,
you got to go back and hear
I go back.
It's awesome.
No, I know, but if I go back and I watch and I don't remember all the specifics, then it's a fair listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, there are times when you know, my voice drives me crazy.
Well, I mean, that makes us feel better because we can't listen to this fucking podcast, I'll tell you. And not that this podcast is as successful as a broadcast of an NFL playoff game, but I know that, I know the feeling of when, if you watch it too soon and it's too fresh, your brain is still processing all the information that you prep so hard on. So sometimes, if you make a point, you're like, that's not even a good point, but everybody else thinks it's a good point, but you've been studying it for a week, so you're over it probably. And then, as you're watching, have you had to steer your voice or your inflection or your style a certain way? How do guys work it? Do they get coached into having a style, or do you show up and have a style and go with it? You wouldn't want to do Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson wouldn't want to do Joe Buck. Could either of you do what each other does? I'm assuming no. I mean, you have different styles.
Absolutely. And that's why I tell, young people that want to get into this business, when you're working in a smaller market, or hell, if you're doing it into a tape recorder, which is what I was doing when I was 13, 14, 15 in the booth next to my dad's booth, that's the time to work on that stuff. That's the time to see what your style may be. But if you get into it, and if I got into this going, I want to be my dad, or I'm going to be Vin Scully, or I'm going to be Marv Albert, or I'm going to be, whoever, Bell Allen. These are names you probably don't even know, but I'm going to be Harry Carey, whatever it might be.
Wait, you don't have to be Jack Buck? I don't have to be Howie Long?
Yeah, no, you don't have to be Howie Long. I hate to be the one to break it to you. So I think you have to just find whatever it is that makes you, and that comes from being prepared, and it comes from being relaxed. And when you are at your most relaxed, your style will come out. You have your own style, and I know what your style is, and I like that. I think you are, you're not your dad. You're a completely different person. And that's how I got into this. Now, I also worked with my dad. I was my dad's broadcast partner for, whatever it was, 10 years or 12 years. And I was seated right next to him. And all that stuff just kind of seeps in. But I never overtly thought, well, what would my dad say here? Because that's what I want to say. You have to turn that off and just find out who you are on the air, and then be confident in that, and hopefully that's good enough.
Yeah,
and if it isn't,
it's true.
Then the business will tell you, and you won't have a job. And if it is, then go with it and further refine it.
Well, it's a twofold question for you and I. I mean, not that we have the same plight, but I would argue that part of the people that I think, if I'm disliked by somebody, okay, lately it's my politics, okay, not to get political here, but they also might not like the fact they perceive nepotism. If you are somebody's son, you're always going to be viewed as somebody's son. And I do think that there's some people that probably shortchange you because of that, or have had it in their head forever and they can't fucking get over it. Even though, to me, I think that you're just as good or maybe better, but I'm a contemporary, okay? So and that's no offense to your dad, who's a legend. But for me, it's just, and on top,
I have a totally different career than my dad. My dad was a radio guy that got a chance at the end of his career because Brent Musburger got fired by CBS to do 2 years of national baseball in kind of the current type marketplace and do it with Tim McCarver. And it didn't really go that well. He had a 2-year deal with a 2-year option, and they got rid of him. And they ended up hiring Sean McDonough. He came from a different era. But the whole notion that basically 30 years later, somebody's still doing my dad a favor who never worked at Fox and met the guy that hired me doesn't even make sense. So
I think those are the same people not staying inside right now during the pandemic. I think that's the analysis capability
they're
of this.
Spring breaking.
Yeah.
Or it's the parents of the kids that are spring breaking.
Exactly. And they should be ashamed.
I have just as much contempt for the parents of those kids as I do those kids.
Absolutely.
But we can leave that
for another day. With your dad, okay, so like if I go back and listen to people from his era, it's almost like, is it the audio of their voices that sound different, or did people's voices just sound really fucking different, in the middle of the last century, Like, the style evolve? I mean, the whole style evolved, like, as years went.
Well, my dad talked like this. My dad smoked from the time he was 16 years old until the time he died. And so he, his joke, and it's his joke, so don't tweet at me. But some kid would ask him, well, how do you get into this business, and what would be your advice to a kid starting this business? And the first thing out of his mouth was always start smoking. So that's not exactly
Does
the kind
vaping
of
count?
Yeah, sure. That's how he would have evolved if they start vaping, kid. Yeah. So, I don't know. But back then, I think when you listen to playback, for whatever reason now on the audio equipment we have, or it was recorded at a higher speed, like I listen to Stern all the time, and you go back in time on Howard Stern, he's talking up here, and he's really fast, and he sounds like a different person, and now it's a lot more resonant, and I think his voice is way better now, but I don't know that it's any different. I think it just was recorded on different type equipment and lesser quality equipment than what it's played back on now.
Yeah, you can almost smell people's breaths now. Like I can hear spit hitting. It's the microphones are so powerful. Do you have a favorite from this era or eras past, like the peers that you look at and you're like, I wish I could do what that guy does? Like, players. There's players that I wish I could be, but they're just different.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I take a little bit. I would take a little bit from everybody. I would like to take my dad's carefree style. I would like to take the way he lived his life and didn't really worry. When I used to get worried about something with my kids when I was a young dad, he'd say, "You don't holler till you're hurt. I'll tell you when to worry," kind of a thing. And a guy who was shot in World War II and had been through, I would love to take his, don't worry about it, and just, especially in these times, I mean, do what you're supposed to do, but the roof isn't falling in, and we'll get through this, kind of a thing. I would take Al Michaels' precision, even at this age, and his ability to do what he does. He's still very precise, and maybe even more so than I am, as a guy who's 25 plus years younger than he is. Costas's recall, Tirico's ability to do everything well, and he's got a brilliant math mind. Nance, the way he calls golf. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't want to be anybody else, but I see attributes and characteristics of other guys and what they do on the air as play-by-play callers that I go, God, when a punt happens and Tirico spits out 46-yard punt right away, I've texted him during a game. I'm like, you do that in your head, don't you, when that's going on? He's like, yeah, I just have the ability to do that. And I said, I'm so jealous of that. This is while he's calling a game. And he said, well, I'll trade you my math abilities for your voice. And so I think we all look at other facets of what everybody else does, and you admire it. And I admire these guys that have done it for as long as they have, or do it as well as they do. And I'm just trying to do my part at my network to the best of my ability. And when they find, the next great guy, I'll be, out on the street and happy for what I got
a guest house. You're making it sound like you're going to be homeless. But
that's the thing. If my career ended today,
if
my career ended 10 years ago, I've done 50 times more than I ever thought I would do. So people go, well, what else would you want to do? I'm like, well, what kind of an asshole would I be if I said, well, I want to do the NBA, and I think I'd like to call the Kentucky Derby, and I'd love to do the Masters, and I'd like to do curling.
Well, you didn't you didn't say hockey there, and I was going to ask how hard hockey appears to be from a play-by-play
It's very
standpoint.
hard. But the TV guys are so good at it. They're basically doing radio on TV.
It's
like
amazing.
everybody that touches the puck. And that's not the way I would do any of it. And yet I said it's my favorite sport to watch.
Oh.
It's my only sport that I really root for because I'm a Blues
How
season
about them
ticket
Blues,
guy.
baby?
It was unbelievable and the best fan experience I've ever had. And to watch that, I get it. I mean, and I was educated with a lot of the stuff I deal with mainly in October when, Doc Emmerich is great and Kenny Albert is great and a great friend of mine and somebody I've been colleagues with since 1994. And I think the world of the guy. But when the games mattered the most, I wanted the Blues announcers to call the games on my TV. And that's how I listened to them all year, every year. And now you're listening to somebody who is truly unbiased and doesn't care who wins. Just like when I'm doing a World Series or a Super Bowl or a champ game or whatever it might be, I don't care who wins. It doesn't affect my life. But when I'm a fan, man, I want the person telling me on TV what's going on to feel the same way I feel. And so it was really helpful. And
Yeah.
I get it. And I got it more then than I ever did. I always thought I got it until I watched really great broadcasters do their thing, and I was just yearning for my guys to do it.
It's the same phenomenon with the, shout out to Steve Savard or like guys in St. Louis, like people that would watch a game, they get used to one thing and then it's the big stage and it's another, and they want the personalization, they want the familiarity, they want the references from the regular season, the behind-the-scenes stuff, and you just can't get that as much from the national guys because they have 32 teams to worry about. You mentioned being a fan. Has there been a game that you called that you said, I wish I was not in this booth?
Meaning it was so bad?
No, it was so good. Like you this was a game that you had waited for. The atmosphere was crazy. You wished you were tailgating. You wished you were, and excluding St. Louis sports maybe, but you can give me a St. Louis one.
No, it's not. I honest to God, I would tell you if I did. I don't. I think I lost that as a kid because I would go on these road trips with my dad with the Cardinals, and I was in every National League city by the time I was 12, and I was bat boying, and I was shagging fly balls before the game, and I was around players, and I was on the charter, and I was on, I was picked on by players, and I was in the broadcast booth, and I saw all that, and I was living and dying with the Cardinals. If they won, I was happy. If they lost, I was pissed and dejected, and then I would get on the charter, and the closer that just gave up the game-winning home run, has got the middle seat popped down. They're playing cards. They don't have a care in the world. And I thought, why am I going to bed mad when the guy that just gave it up is having the time of his life? And I think I lost some of that fandom in baseball. I went to the Rams Super Bowl win in Atlanta in the 2000 season. 2000, 99, whatever season that was.
Yeah.
2000 January or February 2000 in Atlanta, and I loved every minute of being there as a fan. But for the most part, the only fan experience I have where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was out, drinking beer and hanging with my family or my friends, is in hockey. I just don't have that for the sports I call. I would rather be in the booth. I'd rather Game 7 of the 2016 World Series, the Cubs and the Indians, where the Cubs haven't won in 108 years, I would rather call it than be out in the seats, drinking beer, watching it. It's just more fun for me. That to me is fun instead of just, parking and general parking and going in and buying.
Oh, it fucking sucks. I had that whole realization when I went to Kyle's first game, or Kyle's first game this past year. My first game as a retired player, I was like, I don't get this. I don't get football anymore. I don't get being a football fan. I was in a suite. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. And, yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Well, that's why I think, whether if it's Philly fans, Giant football fans, whatever it might be, that they're going there and they're trudging to their stadium and the weather's terrible and it's raining or it's snowing or it's whatever, and they could just as easily be at home watching the thing on a flat screen TV. I'm like, good on you.
That's their thing. Yeah, it's their thing. I can't get in there.
I'm so glad they want to do it. Thank God that people want to do that. Yeah. And it's, for me, I'd rather call it. So otherwise I'd be at home or in the arena if it's a hockey game, and that's about it.
We've been to a booth at Duke that doubled as a dentist office before a recent renovation. At Hard Rock Stadium, they put us, the college broadcast, in the corner of the end zone. I'm wondering, on the flip side, what currently is the best, let's say, NFL booth physically, size, sight line, etc.?
Chicago, believe it or not.
It's a weird stadium, so yeah.
Yeah, you would think that it's really low, and typically that knocks out some of your perception of like the far sideline. New England's tough, like on the far sideline, to see that over there, and it feels dark in there at night. But Chicago, for some reason, like I can see guys' expressions on their faces when they're running in the right direction. So it's so good. Miami was great. You just mentioned Hard Rock, but when they went through the renovation and where we get to sit for the network booth, I was like, thank God we're calling a Super Bowl in a stadium like this where you can see. Our first Super Bowl was in Jacksonville, where you're hanging off the clouds, and it's like, oh my God, I can't see from up here. It's like the tops of helmets running around down there. They've made it better since then, but that is harrowing. You asked me earlier, what's my biggest fear? My biggest fear is not being able to see right from the booth because of where it's stationed. For the most part, we have the best seat in the house. But every once in a while, it doesn't really work out that way. And Jacksonville doing a Super Bowl there back in whatever year that was, 2004, was
really ugly logo on that Super Bowl. That was one of the most hideous. We ranked Super Bowl logos. That was bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's forgettable too, Joe. Yeah, back when they were doing them right. Now it's been corporatized, and every logo looks the same. It's all silvery, and you've got to put the Lombardi trophy in there. Before we let you go, Joe, we're going to talk about our favorite calls. Do you have favorite calls from anybody else? Favorite calls that you did? Is there one you look back on and you hate besides the McGuire?
He got McGuire right.
No, he got the McGuire right, but the build-up to it was I fucked up the process.
Yeah, I didn't like the process on that. The call I liked. There aren't many that I go back, and because it's not fair. It's not fair to go back and go, God, I wish I had done that, or I wish I had said this. I just don't live like that. I think the ones that stand out to me are, the Yankees winning in '96, because it was the first time I was doing a real national broadcast, and I was 27 and started that World Series scared out of my mind. Or not scared, but just timid and wondering how it would all go. And it worked, and I felt comfortable. So that's the one. It's like that's you never forget your first. And I think '96 World Series, that was Jeter's rookie year, and the whole Yankees return to greatness, I think, is one that stands out to me. The Plaxico Burress touchdown for Eli Manning is one. David Freese hitting the game-winning home run in the 11th inning of Game 6 in 2011. And then the Diggs call. I mean, I think the Diggs one, that the Stephon Diggs walk-off touchdown is one that, at least as far as football is concerned, is one that I walked out of there going, good God, that was literally breathtaking, and I'm glad I didn't screw it up. And that's one that I would put on my, just because of what it meant. That would be on my lifetime highlight reel, I think.
You can only mention one. What's your favorite Jack Buck call?
It wouldn't be the typical ones. I mean, I know we're wrapping up, but the Kirk Gibson.
Well, we don't have to. We love you. It's just we just know other people have shit to do during the pandemic.
No, yeah, right. The Kirk Gibson home run. I don't believe what I just saw. People would say, or Ozzie Smith, go crazy, folks.
That was the one.
He did one of Bob Gibson throwing a no-hitter, where his voice cracks at the end of it. And to me, because he was my hero, my best friend, my idol, my everything. I just know how much he loved Bob, first of all, and I know how much he loved the beauty of sports, and I think in particular the beauty of a no-hitter. And when he says it, he says it's a strike call, and his voice cracks, and I can hear him and see him choking up. That's the one that stands out to me because it just encompasses who he was and why he was so great at what he did.